you got to find a chainsaw that you can work with accurately maneuvering this. You know, I was working with my friend saw that's much bigger than this. It's what 360.
Yeah,
360. And that with PPE and the shoes and the gears will burn you out.
Like, first of all, we talk a bit about some of the safety features of like a saw. You know, what we should ideally have, like the scabbard. Although it's not that, may not seem that important. You know, if this is rattling round in the back of the van, making holes in your chainsaw oil or your fuel can, it's a real pain in the bottom. So I personally think the scabbard is quite a good thing. Also, if you're walking, if it's a really steep slope or you've got to go over a mound or whatever, or like cut trees, actually if you're scrambling round, why do you want 30 odd chisels? I've nicked myself on these loads of times while I've been wandering around, and actually it's a real pain. So if you've got a scabbard, why wouldn't you use it? The other thing actually I've done a few times is I've just taped a first field dressing to the scabbard.
Good idea.
It's always there, so that's quite a nice little thing you can do. So with the saw, now if anyone knows these parts, do shout. But this bit here, do you see this little aluminium scoop?
Yeah.
So that is the chain catcher. So that is really good in terms of preventing the chain. So as I say, 70 miles an hour plus 70, 80 miles an hour. When that lets go, it's generally because the chain tension's wrong. But when that lets go, if it's snapped, for example, that will catch it and stop it wrapping around and flinging really unpleasantly. So we'll go into bar and chain in a second. But the other features, you should have this working chain brake. So the chain brake, it's also an inertia chain brake. So God forbid you don't realise. So say if you're cutting multiple limbs and you cut through one and you don't realise that there's something beyond that, or you're cutting down and you don't realise there's a limb beyond that, and that nose digs in, particularly if it's a hard wood, that can come back, kick back like that at a frightening pace, like really lightning quick, because obviously doing 70 miles an hour, that then just flicks up, bang, like that. And hopefully, as I said, it's an inertia chain brake, it should kick in, but it's that's a point of concern. So that's why good always good and solid, robust holding of the saw. So you've also got your dead man's handle here, so you can't pull the trigger unless that is depressed. So it's got to be that down and that up. So any of these features, try not to disable them if possible, because they are sort of there for a reason. Also, you've also got the rear hand guard here, which prevents, if the chain did snap or break or come off, then your hand is protected from that.
You recommend gloves?
I would recommend gloves, actually. In the UK we have a lot of problem with like white finger, like vibration white finger. That's partly made worse because of the cold. So in the UK we get saws with heated handles. Doesn't really seem the need for it here. But when it's frosty, actually cold hands mean you also get more damage to your nerve endings with that vibration, because it's a constant vibration. So you've also got these like spring mounts sort of between engine and handle, so it actually sort of dampens some of that vibration. So those are sort of some of the professional features of the saw. The other thing, what I always think about these saws as well, is that they're a closed system. Provided you've got a good fuel filter and a good air filter, actually it's quite, it is a closed unit. Everything going into it should be nice and clean, and and avoid any, because the piston, piston of this, it'll be doing over 10,000 RPM, so it is screaming. And if there's any sort of bits of debris goes into that, then it doesn't take long for it to score. So clean fuel and clean air filter. Let's does everyone know how to get the fuel filter out of this? Just, you know, a little bent bit of wire, high tech here, little bent bit of wire, and you can just fish it out. So well worth making sure. These are not that expensive. So actually we should, I haven't got a bent bit of wire with me. Have you got a bent bit of wire? Anyway, yeah, it
I'll do the way I do it.
I'll get try to put a finger around it.
Chopsticks.
Yeah.
I thought I'd do it.
Anyway, I mean, it doesn't really need to come out, but you know, essentially the fuel filter in there is key in terms of the now I've started, I feel like.
The time spent as a surgeon obviously wasn't wasted.
Absolutely not. Yeah, so there it is. You know, you've got a little flexible tube.
Okay.
You know, fine gauze there that just prevents any debris getting into the system. So at the other end, you know, you've got the fuel coming in.
How often, sorry, would you change that filter?
I mean, it depends on the quality of your fuel, you know, but if you're using it quite a bit, it wouldn't need to be more than every few minutes, really.
Okay.
You know, if that. But your air filter on the other hand.
Clean it.
Sorry?
Change it or to clean it?
Change it, I would just change it. I mean, potentially, I guess you could try and back flush it with a bit of petrol.
Nah.
But I would just personally, you know, what I always think about all this stuff is that, you know, actually it's you know, this saw is so expensive. You know, why would you try and, you know, it's just a false economy not to try and spend a bit more time and take better care of it. So obviously we've got the air filter here. So what we do with the air filter before we take the air filter off is you put the choke on, yeah, because then that puts the flap down, so it prevent again any dust, or it will make it less likely that any dust or anything else would go in there. And you know, if this is absolutely caked, try and have a good clear around it before you take it off. So ideally, get a little brush or something else, and then you can take that off and it just twists off and you can pull that out. Yeah, and then you've got the sort of inlet into the carburetor there. So this, ideally, you get an air compressor and you could blow it out, or you know, you could just get a toothbrush and
You
gently.
can buy the cans of good pressed air now as well.
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
Yeah. With dust can.
Yeah, you can buy
Like
them from
keyboards
Amazon,
and stuff like
About
that.
washing it.
So you can, yeah. So also, you can get a tiny bit of oily sort of build up on it, and just very gently with a toothbrush. But you know, if you get any holes in that at all, just get a new one. You know, get a new one. With, I don't know about whether there's an uprated version of these, but if you're milling with a larger saw, then you know, very often they have this, and then they have a piece of sort of felt around it as well.
Okay.
But you know, again, clean this surface nicely before it all goes back together. Because again, you know, it's just easy for debris to get in there.
Mm-hmm.
So while we're talking about fuel and filters, you know, running these saws lean will kill them very quickly. So you know what I mean by running them lean? You know, there's not enough two-stroke. So two-stroke is specific oil, and just don't use anything but the two-stroke, you know, because if you like with the veg oil, you know, if somebody, because the danger often happens when somebody's trying to help you, you know, and they're not really sure that, you know, your fuel goes in here, your chain oil goes in here, and if you're using vegetable oil and they put a dash in there, and then you can smell like popcorn because you know, bad sign. Just ditch all the fuel in the tank and just go again, because it's something that would kill the saw very quickly, you know. And you can get replacement pistons and cylinders, but they're very expensive. You buy originals, they're very expensive, and the other ones are good and will last a period of time, but they're not as good as the original.
You literally mean vegetable oil?
Yeah, so in here, if you're using this regularly, like if it's regularly, we've been using just vegetable oil. The danger is that's a tiny bit thinner, and you don't want to make sure that this doesn't run out before your fuel does, because otherwise chain gets hot, and we'll have a conversation about that in a bit. But the other downside of vegetable oil is that if this saw wasn't used for sort of 6 months, it gets quite sticky, it gets quite thick, and it just sort of gums up the whole thing. So good, what you put in the saw, like our bodies, what if you put good stuff in the saw, it will stay running well for for a good bit of time. This saw, it should easily do sort of 8 years if it's well looked after, as long as it's not being sort of thrashed heavily. But I mean, I've got some older saws, and they if they're well maintained, they do keep on going.
So no oil in the fuel. Two-stroke engines will quite often have.
So that's the chain. That's the veg oil is for the bar.
Yeah.
So but the two-stroke, it is 50-1, and you again use a high quality two-stroke oil. So 50-1. So 50 parts petrol, 1 part two-stroke, and you often get the shots. You get the one shots, one shots, which are specifically, there's some over the way. And if you've got a 5 litre container, then you add that in. Again,
the 120 milliliter bottle?
Probably.
That's
It's about that big.
One shot,
And it says on it, sort of 5 litres.
It measures it out for you already.
Some of them do, yeah.
The still one.
Yeah.
The still one out
Make
here.
sure you don't go lean, because if it goes lean, you won't get enough lubrication, and it'll be running hot and too fast. Sorry.
There's some people who use used oil
In there.
to lubricate.
Yeah,
the chain.
you can do that. You can do that. But make sure again it's clean, because used oil probably might have bits of swarf and stuff in there, and bits of debris. So just make sure it's clean. At least put it through something.
Well,
The real thing in my mind, though, is some of the commercial chain oils have stickers in them, and they actually do stick on the chain a lot better.
It adheres better.
Some just spit it all over the place, and
Well, yeah. I mean, it depends what you've got. Clearly we use vegetable oil because we've been down the way, and actually, there's no chance we would get some of the more robust and more the more specifically designed oils. Clearly, if you can get those, that is better.
what about just a 10W30 or whatever it is? Because when I go to that, I bought a saw in September, a MS250.
Right.
And said, sell me the big bottle of two-stroke oil and whatnot. And when it came down to the chain oil, he was like, this is what I sell everybody. It's the cheapest stuff you can find.
Okay. Well, I mean, we don't use mineral oils, but I don't see, provided it's got the right viscosity.
right.
I don't see why. It's a lubricant.
Okay.
And oil is a lubricant.
Right.
I mean, clearly, if in terms of probably organic farming and everything else, you better like
Vegetable oil, right.
than flicking mineral oil all over whatever
trunk
you're
of the
doing.
tree.
Yeah.
Right.
But the main thing is it should be.
What's the viscosity it needs to be? So I can just look.
Well, I can tell you that.
Guys are a set of jokers.
Whatever. I mean, buy the right stuff ideally. But vegetable oil is all right, provided you ensure this does not run out.
Okay.
And you keep it clean, keep it all clean. Cleanliness.
And that's not gonna, and even if it was bad oil, it's not damaging the pistons and the engine component.
No, but it could. But you have got like a peristat. You got like a pump in here.
Okay.
And that then feeds the bar.
Sure.
So we'll look into that in a second. Sorry.
Okay, so you're saying if the saw is going to be down for some time, you'd want to empty?
Yeah, empty out. So probably for both. It's good to run the saw dry in terms of fuel and in terms of chain oil.
Yeah.
But going back to the fuel is probably one of the number one things that will kill the saw. If you run that with too little two-stroke oil, it will kill it. You might not be able to hear it, but it'll run hotter. You'll probably run a little bit faster, and it cooks the piston and the rings. It scores them, and it's it's basically new piston and pot.
I do understand what you're talking about when it runs low, because I have a son. I went to St. Ann to cut a tree, and I noticed that when I was cutting, it was like running normally, and then like you hear it go zzz,
Yeah. So it's almost
really
like
fast.
before it runs out of fuel,
Yeah.
it gets lean and the revs
Yeah.
pick up. You can hear this.
It's a dirt
Goes
bike engine.
faster. Sorry.
It's a dirt bike engine.
It picks
Like
up in
it's
speed.
like a dirt bike, two-stroke.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it is. So that two-stroke is absolutely fundamental because that oil you add to the petrol is what lubricates it. So it's not like a four-stroke engine where you've got an oil reservoir at the base of it. It's two-stroke, so that it's that
High RPM.
that goes
needs
higher
extra
RPM,
lube.
and that goes
Simple engine.
within the, that lubricates all the bearings, big end.
My question is that if you have the oil mixed at the appropriate ratio with the gas, but you haven't used that.
Yeah, it goes off.
Fuel mixture.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, 'cause it's like 90 ethanol or
the oil, the content
87.
of the oil and so on is lost after how many weeks, how many months?
Yeah, I think you should use it within sort of a few weeks. I'd really, so if it's old fuel,
Just discard it.
stick it. Yeah, get it.
Or burn it
Just
in.
tell yourself that there's no oil in there.
Yeah, yeah. No, so just burn it. But I mean, the other thing is just be really, really pedantic and fussy about making sure, ideally, before you put the oil in, put the oil in before you put the fuel in, because actually, you're not going to use it.
yeah.
But it's so easy, and somebody thinks that, you assume that your colleague has put the one shot in, they haven't, and then the sauce sort of stops halfway through the day, doesn't restart, and then you realise the thing's cooked and you're a good bit of money adrift. Do give when you put the if you got the container, you put the one shot in, you filled it up with 5 litres fuel, whatever, do give it a little mix round, because again, if you put the fuel in, it can just sit at the bottom and not be mixed up well.
What's the circumstance here in terms of ethanol gas and premium gas without ethanol?
I don't think it makes a lot of odds, to be honest. I don't think so. So these saws are sort of auto-tuning anyway. So this, it's probably partly why they're so expensive, but it's just the way they make them nowadays. So this has electronic gubbins on the carburettor.
Flexibility.
So it will
Some
adjust
elasticity.
itself whether it's running too rich or lean. So I'd say that would be compensated by the diagnostics in here.
Well, that's this model.
Yeah. This has got an electronic carburettor. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So the older ones, you need to stick with what
So
instructions you got before.
Yeah. So you don't if you look, there's not the adjustment screws you very often see. Yeah.
I'll pose the question a different way. Do you use premium gas or not?
We've used whatever gas we can get hold of.
Okay.
One time we can get premium.
Well, I just find too many people end up with the saw that's no good because it's full of ethanol residue.
Yeah. I think all
Sat in there too long.
Yeah, it's sat in there. I think it's stuff sitting in there.
So you recommend not to use premium? Don't use premium.
I use premium
So use
only
premium. Okay.
and only premium without ethanol.
That's without ethanol.
But I don't think we have ethanol. With
You may
more
not,
than
see, that's why I
10%.
asked.
Just
Yeah,
use
I
it
think-
fresh.
I think use it fresh, and it's
That's it.
not bad. Normally, if you're throughout the day, try not to let the saw run out, because for that period it's running a bit lean.
Right.
But actually, when you finish with it, and particularly if you finish with it for a few weeks or something, do run that fuel tank dry,
Right.
because it'll also clear through the carb. Whereas they, particularly in the past where you had the diaphragm on the carburettor, it would sort of gum up.
Yeah.
And it could be
Stick.
quite awkward
Yeah.
to start again. So the other thing what people do is chain tension. So chain tension like that you'd say is probably about right. I think if anybody wants to pull it, so if you gave that, so that's quite tight. So
You get a little play, but not too much.
yeah, so you pull that gently. So do be careful of these teeth. But you see, it's tighter than you think, isn't it? Certainly, if ever you see it, any sort of slop there, or it bowing down way too loose. So a chain should not come off. I've only had a few chains come off in my life, and every time I've known I've been running too loose, so it should not come off.
How often should you check it?
When you
give
see
it a little
it.
check every time you fuel it, but you'll see it sometimes. You just see this little, you just see that tiny bit, or you might see it on your mate working. I'll go, Trevor, your chain's a bit loose.
That won't surprise me if you had to do that.
Yeah. So because health and safety is everyone's issue, isn't it? So that's you don't want that to jump off, and Trev doesn't want it to jump off.
Another trick too is when you're just getting ready to finish tightening in it, pull up on the end of the bar, because a lot of people try to tighten the chain and then it's slack.
So you can, when you tighten, you can do that. Yeah.
That's how I do it. I always put this bit on something and then I tighten it while it's up in the air.
Show me how you do it.
Can you get the big? Yeah, particularly on the older models, you did have to put a bit of pressure on here. So just while Trev's going off, so if we look at the chain here, so like these are called the drive links, the ones that bit, because these go around the sprocket here, and if you look, there's a little scoop there. You see that? So it's a little sort of cup, and that picks up the oil here and feeds it all along the bar. So then you've got your cutter, and then your depth gauge. So your depth gauge gives you a nice even cut. So that should be, give or take, a bit thinner than your fingernail. So if you look at the cutting tooth, it's at a slight angle. So your depth gauge is here. So you're cutting a nice little, sort of, in this model, my finger's width of cut. But as this cut, you file this back, then clearly you need to reduce this. Otherwise you just end up cutting like a powder.
So the gauge needs to be below the...
So the gauge should be just below the cutting tooth there, yeah. So you do get the little depth gauges.
Yeah, we don't have one here.
No, sadly not. So that's quite important, but you'll know it's probably better for it to be too high than too low, and you'll know if it's too high because you're producing a lot more powder.
Right.
Like if you cut sort of end on into a log, you produce a lot of powder. It produces quite a lot of fine material. Whereas actually, what you should be looking for is that sort of wood, like standard
chunk
sort of
here.
chip. Yeah, chip.
Right.
Sort of I don't know. I was always told sort of fag packet thickness, but sort of fingernail thickness.
Right.
Of chip. And don't take these down too much because otherwise it overloads the saw. It's designed to cut at pace. It's designed to cut little but very quickly, so each tooth is doing its bit of work. It's not designed for each tooth to try and take out as much as it can. It overloads the saw, it puts a lot more force on the chain, so it's,
slow
this
and
is the way
steady
it's
wins the
designed
race.
to work. Yeah.
Even
so
though
in general, how many cuts would you recommend
before sharpening?
Before, not necessarily sharpening, but just changing the chain?
You could cut an awful lot of wood with this chain. If you didn't hit any, if it was clean wood, you could cut a massive amount. So that chain, if we look at the chain again, you see you've got the line, you've got that sort of mark on the back of the tooth there. And you see, this chain's had a bit of use already, but that line at the back, that gives the angle, but also it's when you get to that point, you can basically file up to that point. The problem is, generally, if you're not particular about the way you're sharpening, by the time you get to that point, one tooth could be like that size and the other tooth could be quite big, and hence it doesn't cut very well. So trying to have consistent teeth is really important. So here, actually, if we look slightly, we're all human. So this tooth on the right is quite a bit shorter than the one on the left. Ideally, they should all be exactly the same size.
Right.
And that way you get a nice, even, progressive cut.
I think that's the difficult part when it comes
It
to
is difficult. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
you have to buy that guide, because otherwise you're gonna have to become a artist that is just thousands of hours learning how to sharpen.
I can see
properly.
that size longer. So for me, because of the way I'm built, ideally, I would personally cut a little groove in a log and sit that in. Ideally, so it just sits like that nicely. Right. But I know I press harder because I'm sort of right-handed. I'll be pressing harder on that right-hand cut. So when I turn it round like this, it's just slightly more awkward. So say if I was doing 4 on the right-hand tooth this way round, I'll be maybe doing 5 to try and balance it out. So just little tweaks like that just means you get a much more even tooth and a much more progressive cut.
I've never thought of it that way.
Because it's an art. We need the guides.
No, but that's. But you can do that.
Sure.
Because also we've got to work with what we got, haven't we?
Sure.
I know you're teasing slightly, but there, you can see that tooth is shorter than that one. So actually, I will give that, a couple more strokes than this next time round, and I'll see if it still seems slightly out of kilter. I'll just try and make that little adjustment constantly.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Any questions?
I offer service with a professional sharpening disc for people who have wrecked their. It does it sequentially, and they send me bad blades that are all uneven.
Yeah. So you can get, you get a little drop down one. So there's two different types of electric ones. We can get one which looks like sort of like a little chop saw, and that can come down, and that's quite good for evening up the tooth. If you had, say, for like a company or something, it might not be worth getting one of those. So halfway through the filing process, you sort of reset it so everything's uniform again. But you can get battery powered little ones which sort of turn on an axis, and they can do that as well. The danger being with those, if you're too heavy handed as you're coming down, you can overheat the tooth and glue it, so you have to do it sort of quite carefully. And you also, it's a little bit more greedy in terms of what it takes off the chain.
What do you mean by
it's another art for that?
Yeah, so
temper the chain and make it more brittle.
Yeah, so it reduces the tempering because we've sort of heated it up. So
it'll break in the future easily.
Yeah, so they just don't hold their edges well once they're glued. So that's chain tension. So if we take, right, I think we're done with the chain. Is everyone happy with the chain?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I guess the other thing, what we do, we'll go onto the bar now, but actually part of it runs in to the chain. Well, part of it is very aligned with the chain.
What's this for?
The felling dogs. Okay, so so the felling dogs are quite useful. As soon as you've mentioned it, I will talk about that now. So the felling dogs are quite useful. So in terms of when you're when you're felling a tree, you want try and keep everything horizontal where it needs to be. I think we'll talk about this later. But you can push it in, and then you can pivot it on this corner, so that can go in. And you can pivot it around, so they're quite useful. And also, if you're cutting upwards, so say if a tree's like that, you've got compression at the bottom, tension at the top. You can push that top felling dog into the tree and then pivot it up.
I see.
And obviously that's taking a bit of the weight as opposed to because they're big saws, they're heavy, but actually where you can be kind to your body, you want to be particularly
for sure.
Beasting yourself in the sun.
Yeah.
With it.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the felling dogs. Right. So back to the chain. So these nuts are captive nuts as well, so they don't need to. So they're held on the sort of chain plate, or the cover, chain cover. So here we go. So here we have the sprocket, and inside there's a little needle bearing. There's a little needle bearing that
director.
Yeah, little needle bearing that the sprocket sort of goes on. So this. This is, and this part here is the brake band that you can just about see it engaged. So if I click that on, you can see how that band is now tight around the what is that big sprocket? Well, that is the sprocket. Well, that's the sprocket. This is the sort of
maybe like the face of the sprocket.
It's the gearbox.
Well, it's not really gearbox. This is it, so what you've got inside there is you've got two weights, and they're sprung very tightly together. And as you fire up the saw and speed of the engine increases, they push outwards. And as they push outwards, they grip this part which is escaping me.
It's like a centrifugal
kind of like
clutch.
it is a centrifugal clutch, exactly that. Yeah, so it's a centrifugal clutch. So as the revs increase, it pushes to the outside of this sort of casting, and then that provides direct drive to the chain. So with the chain, what we do is, if you're clearing it out at the end of the day, I'd say always try and rotate it. because then you get a much more even wear on it. So I'd imagine for chainsaw users, you know, you get that J-shaped cut, don't you? Like that. And that is mainly because the bar is no longer parallel.
It's biased to one side.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So just balance it.
Yeah, so
Flip it.
these should be nice and parallel, and also ideally, let's get it. So we haven't talked about sharpening yet, which I should do. So really, it is good to dress the bar. So by dressing the bar, you know, you want a chamfer. If you can feel like he's all right actually, which is good. You can sometimes you run your nail there and it'll catch, and you can feel that edge because you've created a little burr along the edge of the bar. You don't want that. There's no need for it to be there. Actually, it's just another bit of metal, another bit of sharp thing to cause you a mischief. And there's enough of that on a chainsaw anyway. So what you really want is you want a tiny little chamfer. So you just take the corner off. So you prevent that burr building up. Doesn't need to be a lot, but you just main thing is you need to not generate that burn. I mean, I've had little sharp, and you work from the tip away, so you know that material is going out.
So you're just removing what's been chipped up and scuffed up.
Yeah, and you're just
use of the saw.
The outermost edge. So if you look here as well, you can just about see. So you see. Well, it's hard to see, but on here, you know, because of these, the sort of the links are rubbing on the saw. You sort of each side of the bar, you've got this little cupping like that, and you don't need that. You know, really, you want it flat with that corner taken off. So if this is the outside face,
gotcha.
That corner like that, and the same this side. You know, and you want that flat, but with a like slight chamfer on that outside face. So you take off the outside face, and particularly where you get the wear, you'll see it often is
down by the base.
Yeah. So here, you can feel it there. Like there's you can see it's starting to produce a little line either side on the outside edge of the bar. So you dress the bar like on that.
Can I just put a bevel on the straight on the corner edge? Is what you're doing?
Yeah. Put a bevel on the corner edge. Exactly that.
Like a slant.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just do a bit of that.
See?
Yeah, what?
Take, and sometimes, you know, sometimes we, you know, for certain things like, I dread to say it, but you know, for certain weeds, we do use like back in the UK, I use glyphosate. Sorry. I'm just being honest. But you know, for like Japanese knotweed or whatever. But you know, for certain on heathland, for certain or cherry laurel or something which is like quite invasive where I am, you know, and I do little grooves with the tip of the bar, and for things like that, actually, you know, you use the nose quite a lot, and then you can get quite a bit of impact on the bar there.
What is it that you do to glyphosate?
So I just the way I cut, so where I've got stumps, say of cherry laurel, I will just cut grooves like that into it, and then I paint the glyphosate on, so it's as targeted as it can be. But actually, I feel I've justified.
Sorry, relax,
justify my use of glyphosate.
Permission to speak freely, eh?
Not allowed. Yeah, so you know, then you can get quite a bit of wear on the chain there. So if we look at this. And this is quite useful actually. So you see here you've got this little hole. So that's your oiler. So that needs to be nice and clean, you can tell. So that's the nice thing, when you forget, as everyone does, when you take the bar off and you're fiddling around with the chain and other stuff, you forget which way round the bar was. If you're looking at the witch hole is clean, then you can tell. So next time that can go on upside down. Yeah.
So the side facing away would not have any oil in it, is what you're saying?
No, so it's the side facing to the saw where the oil's come out.
Okay,
that's
from
what's
here.
So that's what's kept it clean. So that side there, punching through there.
And
so
the side on the outside would be have
just gets gets debris and that's it. And then really sort of, again, you know, you can do it in the field, but actually sometimes, you know, if you could take it to you know, put it in a vise and then you can like get it nice and square.
And now you're just leveling both of them.
Yeah, making sure. So yeah, you can see there. You see how that sort of it's quite cupped, isn't it? just try and take that off, and you can see it's creating a shine either side, isn't it? Where that a little and often is always the best, as with all these things. It's best.
And how often would you expect to replace the bar?
Yeah, again, it would go a long time. You know, you can do an awful lot if it's not got damaged.
In the chainsaw that you had for 8 years or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Did you replace the bar?
Yeah, I would have done it a few times.
A few times. Okay.
I mean, it all depends on use.
How much use, right? I mean, you're using these things every day.
Yeah. So it depends on how much. So here, it's like that bluing there is because of the way the bar was made. But if all the paint started to peel off around the top edge and it was really blued, you know, and you saw the paint peeling off, you know, you'll feel it. I'm sure you'll feel it, because if you're giving the saw beans, actually it loses a lot of power if the chain is way too tight. So, you know, that tension.
Got the brakes on.
Yeah, it's just loads more friction than you need, and there needs to be. Whew. Right, so I'm going to pop the chain back on. Do you know how long they've got left?
You wouldn't give it a clean like since
Well, I would give it. Okay. I would give it a clean, but
not sure if there's time for that.
Not today, maybe.
And this is past works.
Yeah.
Okay.
That says Elizabeth.
Westmoreland. You guys been to Jamaica before?
Interesting time.
Well, thank you for coming during this time, you know?
So the only time I've been to
time to come.
Caribbean before was after to Dominica after Hurricane Maria.
Yeah.
So yeah,
You see people in their true colours.
Well, yeah, I mean, people are, people are amazingly resilient. You know, hats off to you. You know, but I feel
not the sun on Jamaica, so it's a good time to really see people as you know.
Yeah.
Unmasked. It's not the Irie man. Yeah, no.
Irie man.
Irie. Everything Irie man.
Yeah, nobody uses the word Irie man, yeah?
Is that chain direction?
Yes. So the chain, the bottom part of the chain.
I've people in Caledonia outside of Darliston, Petersfield, so I was down there the other day, and like I couldn't not come to this workshop, because even like in my family space where I went, and it's just like
you only see the carcass stand, not even limb.
So you see, and then putting this on. So what I didn't explain there was here you've got the little screw. You got the little screw and the chain tensioner. So this little screw here goes on a worm gear and sort of just moves that bolt, that sort of stud backwards and forwards, and that is what adjusts your chain tension. So what you generally do what you generally do is put it on loosely, you know, so it's held, so everything's still in a straight line.
Got you. Kind of tuck it.
Yeah, so not even, you know, just finger tight, really. Finger tight, and then you feel what the tension is on that. So that's good. And then
you can go in and
tighten it up. So chains don't stretch, they just wear on the pivots. So, you know, a new chain quite often will get more slack in it quite quickly, because it you know, it just sort of beds in. Really, you should probably have it to that one.
and then it kind of balances up.
Yeah, and then it sort of slows down over time.
Yeah.
But you know, if you're cutting something and it's come out of a riverbed and it's covered in grit, I mean, really, the chain, as with the rest of it, try not to get any soil or anything else on it. If you can use a machete, like if you're cutting something low down, try and take away that mossy material, that soily material, and just cut clean wood. You know, that's what.
Take the bark off, basically, as a lot of things if you can, too. I see people that a lot taking off the bark.
Yeah, so I'd say that's about right.
You just test on one side, right?
Yeah. That was a heavy size, sir.
Oh my God, chainsaw,
I mean, you know, I just say spend a bit more time looking after them, and don't, you know. The problem is, you know, we all want to get the job done, don't we? And that's the, you know, that's then then you just spend a long time dealing with the problem, isn't it? It's like, you know, if you're cutting stuff close to the ground and somebody goes, chink, and then it's 10 minutes of sharpening. So I mean, for me and stuff, if it's on a road or flat or whatever, you know, at least if the handle's on the ground and you come down like that, you're not that likely to get it. Not that likely to hit the ground, and just be very wary of, you know, you hit a stone with it and it's pain, isn't it? Particularly if it's a long bar, if it's a 3-foot bar and you hit a stone, you've written off half the morning. Yeah, it's painful, it is painful. But you know, they are exceptionally efficient at what they do. I think.
Can that take different lengths of bar?
Yes, this could. Yeah, this could.
What's the maximum it can take?
I'm not sure on this one. It's probably, I'd imagine it'd be like 24 inch or something, probably 2 foot. So the other thing is, so what we haven't talked about.
That's too much chain to sharpen.
Sorry?
So 24-inch bar, that's too much chain to sharpen.
Yeah. Well, the other way of thinking of it, if you don't hit anything solid and if you're only cutting wood, it's no different.
Okay.
It's just when somebody drills it into the ground without thinking, but you take them to one side and you have a little word.
I see.
And you know what I found a lot in, years gone, people use nails in trees to hold up lines, clothing lines or whatever. You don't see it, but it's in there.
One of my policies is I have an old chain for that bad cutting. Put it on, and if you know you're going to be working close to the ground.
If you're gonna, or it's dirty sleeper or something else, you know. Yeah, no, that is not a bad shout at all.
That's a good idea.
So when we're sharpening, you know, what we always want to keep is this gullet, you know, this slight curved edge. So you might have to come in closer for this. So you see how that's a curved edge. What we don't want to do is, you know, when I'm sharpening, I don't want to be pressing down hard and cutting into this sort of tie strap, on this side. Because as you notice, it gets lower, so it can have a little bit of a nibble into it, but we certainly shouldn't be cutting right down into it. So sharpening, we're in line with that mark at the back, and it's generally a slightly sort of upwards angle there. And what I would do is, as I said, can you just hold that, Trev?
Yeah. You
so
dig a line and stick the chain down into it.
That looks so safe forever.
And then I'll do a couple of those, and you can do them quite hot, you know, reasonably firmly, but I'm pressing that way, not down. So I'm pressing that way. A few of those, and then the last one I'll do it much gentler and just try and keep it really straight.
Okay.
You know, so like here, a few of those. Because if you press too hard and, you know, you're in a rush to do it and you're pressing hard and you're sort of bending the file as you do it, you know, I'm sure other people have done that. So you don't need to do it that much, and the last one, do it nice and gently, and because you want that should be a perfectly straight line. Yeah, that one's got a tiny curve to it. That one's got a little bit of a curve. That one's got a curve to it. You see. Should be lovely and straight, and this is a chisel chain, so it's all in that one corner. That one corner does all the cutting, really.
Nothing wrong with using a Sharpie to mark where you start.
No, very true. And I mean, the other thing is, you know, I could be guilty of it, but these files, you know, if you've got loads of them sat in a box together, all rattling round, you know, they rust or just, but you know, they're
soft. They're not good anymore.
Well, they either get gummed up, or it just takes off all the little nibs on the edge, which actually do the cutting.
Yeah.
So you know, there is an art to sharpening, and it really should be, you know, even amount on that side, and then if I turned it around, say if I did 5 on this side, I'd turn it around and do, you know, 6 or maybe even 7 on the other side, just to balance it out. But you know what? That's whatever works for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the top now?
The top, this depth gauge, yes. So, you know, really, the depth gauge probably only needs to be touched, depending on how much you've sharpened it.
Okay.
But you know, every sort of half dozen, maybe a little bit more.
I do between 6 and 8. It sharpens.
Yeah, it's like half dozen-ish sharpens, depending on how much you back. If you've hit something and you've had to take it back quite a long way, then you will need to do the depth gauges.
Okay.
So, because it's probably easier now, I can demonstrate with this, but like, see, that's the angle of the tooth. of the tooth. So you can see that as this comes back, you know, the depth gauge should get low, because that gap there, this is what, I don't know, depends on old money or new money, but you know, it's like a mil or so, isn't it? But if it was at the back of that, it would have to be, you know, you have to take down that much. Can you see that? It's not.
I got the camera straight.
Yeah.
So we'll just hope for the best.
Okay.
Otherwise, guys, YouTube.
Yeah. So this tooth has already had a bit of sharpening, but you can see there, that's the kind of gap you're wanting. But if it was back to the back edge of that
you won't have the
tooth,
time.
This is special.
then you know that would need to be best part of a millimetre lower.
The gauge or the actual
The depth gauge.
Okay.
So as the tooth goes back, the depth gauge needs to be taken down, so you still get that correct amount of cut material each time.
Yep.
So that one is a bit too high, or it's okay?
I think it's pretty good. It's pretty good. To be honest, like, that's why you get the little depth gauges. It's just much easier. Trying to eyeball it is not really great. So the thing that is really key is when it starts to cut powder, you know you need to tickle your depth gauges. I'd almost leave it until that is the case.
Okay.
You know, as soon as it starts to be a bit more powdery on the cut.
You should be getting chips then.
Yeah, you should be getting chips. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you start getting powder, then you take down the depth. You carry down not the top one.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can file that. And don't touch. Just fairly flat, because it's angled already. Okay. So you can just take it down flat.
Okay.
Don't touch the other one.
Yeah, don't chip that and get rid of all your good work from the first part.
Cool.
I think that is it. So the other thing is actually different size files for different size chains, bigger saws. So Dwayne's saw needs a larger file than this, and do try and use the right file. Thanks, man.
Yeah, you get the right file to the right spec.
File, right saw.
Spec to spec.
I've seen any of those big ones here. I've only seen those type of small ones.
Right? Isn't the chain has a big chain?
You would think, but if you have a look at the other. What? Oh, it's not here.
So the biggest size is that one, 530 seconds or
what is this one?
3/8.
But
this is.
They always have the files. That's for certain.
That's on this one.
No, you don't
3/16, 4.8 mil. But you see, you get 4.8 mil. You used to have another chain which was 4.5 mil.
530 seconds is for the finer chain.
Yeah, but I mean, you can get like a Pico chain. So like the saws on a stick. You know the pole saws.
The telescopic
pole saws. A friend of mine calls them murder sticks, which I think you can kind of see where he's coming from with it.
No, I can't. That seems actually relatively safe, and I have
well,
one.
It is depending on who you're working with and how close they are to you. For you, I'd say
that would be the safety. The safe
for
one
you,
to
it's
use.
quite close. But if your colleague is a little bit handsy, then or too close to you, then it's not a good idea. Yeah. So that they run on like a Pico chain, which is really narrow, like really surprisingly small files, and then you get like a big dog like 088 or an 08 and 881 or whatever, 127cc brute of a saw. That'd be that's a 5.5.
How far up in cc do they go?
Yeah, that's pretty much one of the biggest. 27.5cc.
Don't go no further.
Not really. I mean, it's a bruiser. Okay. It's a bruiser. Yeah, but that saw, instead of this being 4.8, that's a 5.5 mil file.
But I ask a question. Like, you have what do you call those saws? Tournament saws, where they.
Oh yeah.
Those
overrated.
Yeah. So would you not consider those would be like?
I think that the saws wouldn't last that long. Oh. They're designed to deliver a lot of power briefly.
Like a race car, it's like just for the event.
Yeah, ridiculously loud.
It's tuned just for the event.
I would say, not that safe. They probably, yeah. I'll pass on that, personally. I'll pass on that.
Alright.
Yeah, if you want to keep all your limbs, and if you're using that regularly, I would pass.
Why me ask that? I mean, that's like, would it be like...
He's thinking of having an event.
Using our work, that me that type of ask. Would it be practical to use in our work ethic?
Not so much. I think I'd go for one of these. I mean, that is an absolutely cracking saw.
Yeah.
That would not do you. You look.
So, that crease between the chain there is what you really. I got
piece of tin metal. I cut it from a sardine tin, and I actually bent the edges and make it thin enough to fit in between this. So I use it to clean it out all the way. But I clean it this side because you know the sprocket is here, so I clean it backwards.
Okay.
Yes, because you know that is very important for the chain and also for the oil.
To keep
So if it's not
running.
lubricating, you know we're going to have a problem.
Correct. That's a big
because
one.
Then the chain, the whole bar, the chain is going to run hot.
I never thought about this one. Thank you.
Yes, and you don't want that.
No.
And the chain, you don't want more to see more than at least 3, 4 the most.
Yeah.
When you're looking, because you don't want it to be too slack.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so when you lift it, what you're saying then?
Yes.
Is the bottom of this chain in terms of how you judge the height?
Yes.
As to.
So you don't want it to go more than
the tension.
Yeah, because the tension.
The whole tree should be above the tree.
Yes. Yes.
Let's
so
go on
you
again.
can see it.
As in
It's almost
full of
yes.
the guide.
Yes, no more than 3.
But they weren't fully out either.
No, it has to be fully out. But as you know, you don't really want it to be out, but just close enough.
Gotcha.
Tension.
Yes, because the tension, it is possible that chances are it will fall off. And you don't want that because the more that happens, then you're going to have to shorten the chain
A little smaller,
again.
you
You
can
know?
get
You can hold it up for me.
this way.
That's what I do.
Yes. But
I know the bigger bar.
oftentimes what we would do is to make things okay with it and for the oil to keep penetrating.
Yeah.
So each time we take off the bar, we would flip it.
Move, yeah.
Yeah, we would flip it. So, you know, it keep balance.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
I may have missed what you were saying, but I mean, I use this.
Hi, I'm Andy Baker from DART, Secretary of DART, just here in Jamaica, working with the team and working with the local community, training up people and clearing some of the roads that are blocked. If we look here at some of the devastation that's been caused by Melissa, and you know the poor communities that are now still without access to the road network. You can see here just how bad the devastation is. You know, the trees that have been all snapped off and many of them flattened. We're working, a volunteer team based in Devon, working with colleagues from all over the UK to help clear these roads, as we say, with locals, where we can share our skills and share our equipment, so when we leave, all that equipment is left within the country and the community, so that is a resource for people going forward, where people know how to maintain it, how to use it safely, and we provide the PPE with it. And you know, we when we come, we are completely self-sufficient, so you know, we don't take any resources from the communities that have lost whatever they had.